Monday on Daily Delivery. Patrick Reusse joins me as usual. I don't know how many of you stayed up relatively late on Halloween to witness the Vikings, as my friend described on Twitter, the Vikings dressing up like the Vikings and losing to a backup quarterback and being afraid to pass the ball further than from me to my laptop. Patrick, how do you explain what you saw in them losing to a backup quarterback, Cooper Rush, making him look, like Dak Prescott, falling 20-16, going to 3-4 now on the season? Like, everything was set up for them to win, and they just refused to put a game away.
They refused to seize it,
yes.
to put it away. Honest to God, when I saw on the crawl that Prescott wasn't going to play, I said the Vikings should win by 3 touchdowns because I thought they were 50-50 with Dak, maybe a little less than that. But this guy had never played. The only time we ever saw him play was for Central Michigan against Tracy Clay's team in the Quick Lane Bowl in Detroit, and he passed for 149 yards against the Gophers, who in the Quick Lane Bowl, which the 5-7 Gophers won against mighty Central Michigan. But he looked to me like the first quarter and a half, he was scared to death.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything. They put a little rush on him, but what was with the cornerbacks letting this guy just throw 8-yard passes in front of him too? Beyond the fact the offense, didn't do anything. They didn't. Are they that terrified of Breland and Cameron Dantzler that they won't let him cover receivers? It was just a complete mess of it's. It gets coaches fired. A game like that gets coaches fired. And I would, I read into Ziggy's mad tweeting that they showed
texting,
us on TV. Texting, not tweeting, texting that he was tweeting someone, Mark, brother Mark or somebody saying, we're going to get rid of this guy if we lose this game. It was unbelievable. Jerry Jones is sitting up there in the press box, one of the world's 5 biggest dinks. And he doesn't think they're going to win the game. And all of a sudden
nobody should.
All of a sudden they win the game. What the heck happened?
I don't know. I think they go down and score on their scripted drive, and they don't score a touchdown again. They're 1 for 13 on third down.
Yes,
they had more first downs by penalty than by pass. It's like, and I know the offensive line was not good, and I mean, it's fixed until it's broken again, right? And anytime you get someone who can get pressure up the middle, Bradbury is getting thrown back all night long. But still, like, at some point, you got to push the ball downfield. Even on that last drive, they're throwing like 7-yard outs. And it's like, what are you doing? Just go and score. Just try.
Yes, they threw it. They're 1 for 13. How many passes did they complete on third down that weren't first downs?
That's a good question. I'll go back
there had to be at least 4 of those, right? That you throw them under the, you throw them under the flag and, under the marker. And, also, what was it only 2 weeks ago before the bye week that we were applauding them for the way they kind of rolled Cousins out of the pocket a little bit, and let him get a look at the field and complete some passes instead of stand there in the pocket and let them put pressure on them. It was just a complete abomination. And I think, the Detroit game, it was identical to the Detroit game that they almost let that collection of mutts steal that game against them. Now, Dallas obviously has a lot better athletes than Detroit does, but it was the same setup to win, put it away, as you point out, go down the field, score a touchdown. You know what? They say script plays, right? Why don't you, when you score a touchdown, why don't you say, let's run the same plays. Let's, just because you script them to start the game, why not say, hey, that worked. Let's go out and do the same thing.
Why don't you script the whole game? Why don't you make the why don't you make the whole airplane out of what you make the black box out of? Script the whole game. Whatever's whatever seems right. And it was unbelievable. And it's just you're right. It was kind of the same blueprint that they've gotten away with against Detroit in particular, where they just whatever it is, if it's conservative, whether it's a lack of trust. And I get it. Yeah, Patrick Peterson was out, and they didn't have Daniil Hunter for the second half of that game, which certainly
that hurts. Yeah.
Changed things, and we'll have to see how his health is. But it is a mentality, too, where it just seems like they're utterly unwilling to go out and win a game by 3 touchdowns. Like, it's okay to take chances if the risk is greater than the reward. And I think in that game it was. And you heard Adam Thielen afterwards. Let me read you the quote and you can tell me what you think of that, because it was in Suhan's column and Ben Gessling's game story. It was that good. He said, I'll say this, it's how we all feel. We've got to quit just hanging in games. Every game we just hang around, just let the other team hang around instead of putting our foot on the gas and going. I would say if you're not frustrated, there's something wrong with you and you should not be on this team.
Take a playcation to Mystic Lake. With 24/7 gaming, the good times never have to end. And you can satisfy your cravings at our restaurants and bars. Or relax in one of our luxurious hotel rooms. Those that play together, stay together. And don't forget to join Club M so you can spark new memories and bask in the rewards along the way. Follow the lights to Mystic Lake, where every day is play day.
Okay. Among the assets if you would rate the assets of this team, what is the number one asset? Wide receiving, catching the ball. And now that they got Tyler Conklin making plays, their receiving core, when you consider the way Osborne has improved, and you got Thielen and Jefferson, and you have a tight end, and you can throw it to Dalvin Cook coming out of the backfield. What is, why are they taking advantage of that? I mean, why run into the brick wall all the time? I don't know. Zim, as we age, most of us get more paranoid.
Okay.
I don't think I have gotten more paranoid. I've gotten less paranoid because my thing is, what the hell difference does it make? But with him, it's his job, right? I mean, he's gotten paranoid. There's something wrong with him. What is going on? I don't know. I don't think, fans going goofy and overreacting to defeats are some kind humorous, but I don't think you can overreact to this defeat. I think outrage is the only response to this defeat. That you have to be outraged because of the way they went about playing that game. They want to make that game fast, so Cooper Rush has to think, right? They want to make game fast. They want to put pressure on him. Instead, they play as slow as they possibly can. They don't put any pressure on the other team's defense, and they don't put any pressure on him to make any plays. He had to make 4 plays to win the game. How about what happened on the 73-yarder?
I don't know.
As Frankie Broyles used to say, where is the safety man?
Harrison Smith was like running lockstep with him. It was the weirdest thing. He was like running around trying to catch an angle, and next thing you know, he's in the end zone.
Yes, and Mackenzie Alexander was 3 strides behind him the whole way down the field. That's the only guy. It was brutal. It was just brutal. You know what though, Mike? I had this thought after an hour after the game. They have 10 games left. When you add this game to the schedule and you add a playoff spot, they have 10 games left. And, it doesn't look good. They could get to 3-6 and have the Packers playing coming in here, and they could still have a chance to be a playoff team. If it's just the reality is that if you get to, I guess you got to get to 10 probably I don't think 9 and 8 will do it, but it might.
Yeah. 9 and 8 might. Yeah.
But 10 and, it's not going to be over this year nearly as early as it is most years. This looks like the end, but it's not. It's with 10 games left, who the heck knows what's going to happen. We're going to go through, I wouldn't say peaks, because I don't know if there's such a thing as a peak with this team, but we're going to have a couple of plateaus that people say, yeah, okay. And then the valleys, hell, there'll be 3 more of those before the season's over, up and down and all around. But I don't know. I mean, you can't spend 2 months assuring us all and showing us at times that Cousins is better than he's ever been, and then go out there and not try to let him make any plays.
Yeah.
Maybe it was him. Maybe he was the guy that wouldn't throw the ball down the field. I don't know. Maybe he was terrified for some reason, but whatever it was amazing.
Is the timeout that cost him 5 yards on that last drive, is that going to be Zimmer's 12 men in the huddle? His quote was, "I screwed up. I forgot that I had called one. So they called 2 in a row. You can't do that. I knew the play that they were running. It was really the same play they hit down the middle against us for a long touchdown. And someone said, call timeout. And I did. The official wasn't supposed to grant it anyway. It's not his fault. We ended up getting a 5-yard penalty. Then after that, of course, they throw the check down to Ezekiel Elliott. Should have stopped him short, made him try a game-tying field goal. Instead, he breaks 2 tackles, gets 15 yards, first down, next play, winning touchdown."
Yes, well, that's true. They should have tackled Zeke, but guess what? That's what Zeke does.
Yes.
That's why he's Zeke, because he runs through tackles. So, that it's not like, okay, it's not a shock that he made a great play and got the first down. The fact that they, let him get down there. How about the catch of Cooper on the ball that was bouncing around? That was a weird play too.
That was Bashad Breeland's Chris Dishman moment.
Yeah, or it was the Stephon Diggs. It was the mini version of the Minneapolis Miracle. It was like, what was that?
Yeah, I know it.
It was just I wonder what the downtown scene was after
Halloween, after everybody's been drinking all night.
The bars probably closed rather than put up with what might have happened. But how about the number of, I wasn't there, Mike, but just from the noise, there had to be 8,000 Cowboy fans in there.
Yes.
I mean, it was amazing. It was, they still follow those guys around, even though they haven't been on a conference title game since 1995. So it's weird. It was a terrible loss, just a terrible loss.
One more quote, then I want to move on to Gophers and some other happier things. The Vikings had a chance to score at the end of the first half. They're up 10-3. They're trying to score. They get, I think, a completion that stays in bounds. Instead of calling timeout with 25 seconds left, they try to scramble up to the line and get a play going. It ends up, Cousins afterwards said, "I just let Zimmer handle the timeouts because I never quite know what the coaches want to do and what they're thinking play to play. I was just going to play where we're at and let them call the next play." And that quote is perfect, Cousins, but it also works so well with the timeout screw up at the end of the game too. Anyway,
but it throws it back at that. He's throwing it back. I mean,
yes,
Thiel's throwing it in Zim's face, and now Cousins is throwing it back in Zim's face too. I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if we get some shocking news this week. I don't know. I don't think so, but I would guess that there's high level meetings going on out there today with the Zig, probably last night between Ziggy and Spielman and everybody. I don't know. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Zim knows. He's got a completely different look on the sideline. He knows that if this thing doesn't work out, he's going to get fired. And these guys have pulled the trigger in the middle of the season before. They did it to Childress. So I wouldn't be shocked.
I don't think that was the end, but it feels like the kind of game that could be certainly the beginning of the end, especially if things continue to unravel against Baltimore and the Chargers and the Packers. By the way, final NFL thought: the Packers. Someone tweeted this at me last night. The Packers have more wins than the rest of the division combined. 7-6. It's 7-6, Patrick.
Bears are terrible.
Terrible.
Poor Lions. And, I had to give the wise old owl a little, the Craig a little hard time on Twitter.
He tweeted at me. He said, I don't think the Lions are going to upset the Eagles.
That was his upset special. And I said, it's just because he's such a kindred spirit for the underdogs of mankind. It's not because he doesn't know football. Poor, you know what? I think that Dan Campbell's a complete moron, crazy cheerleader type, but I felt sorry for him. I watched a little bit of his post game. He's like, I hope he makes it through the day. He looked like he was going to keel over after that 44-6. That was at home too, right?
Yes, because you saw the people with the paper bags on their heads. Yes, you certainly did.
Yeah, you know what? They got I think they'll beat the Bears or something at home, won't they? I mean, but they. How about a franchise that could go 0-16 and set a world record in a century, and then beat it by going 0-17?
They could do it. If anyone's capable of doing it, it is the Lions.
We got them in our division, baby.
And almost lost to them. Lost to them. Almost, but that's almost is their story to tell too. Let's shift to Gophers for a little while here, Patrick. A team that actually knows how to put another team away. Second straight week they didn't have to run or didn't have to throw a whole lot, but when you have such a dominant edge on the offensive line, why not run 50 times? Why not just steamroll an opponent, which they did against Northwestern 41-14? I mean, if they can avoid again any kind of stumble next week against Illinois, which Illinois has had a couple good wins this season. Boy, that Iowa and then eventually Wisconsin showdown, those are looming pretty big.
Yeah, and it's got to be a cause of optimism that the Iowa offense has gone completely in the tank. I don't think they had 200 yards at Wisconsin, and they got all of a sudden the air came out of the balloon for them 2 weeks ago, and now it came out again. And Illinois, a nice bounce back game after the Penn State upset, where they ran for 300 and some yards against Penn State. I think they ran for 107 against Rutgers and got beat by Rutgers at home. So I would imagine the Gophers will do the same thing, just try to run against them, keep it, run against them 50 times. And that could be a 2.5-hour football game because Illinois can't pass at all, and their quarterback got hurt. Even when they beat Penn State, I don't think they passed for 100 yards. So, yeah, there's no reason not to beat them. You know what? You know what else here? Wisconsin, they already have 2 losses, right?
Yeah.
And Iowa now has 2. If the Gophers could lose one and still win the West.
Oh, yeah.
Because they got Iowa's got Nebraska left, and, Nebraska's got to win a game some year, don't they? And they lost to Purdue, I saw, and Wisconsin, I haven't quite figured out who they got left.
Oh, Wisconsin's got Rutgers, Northwestern, and Nebraska before they play Minnesota. So it's going to be hard for that. But it's going to be hard for that Badgers-Gophers game not to be for the Big Ten West at some point, I think.
If the Gophers beat Iowa, right?
But even if they lose that game, it's still going to be possible because tiebreakers being what they are, I mean, that game could determine it as long as they're within a game of each other.
I don't think they have to run the table. They could be 7-2. I don't know how the tiebreakers work. Obviously, if you played head-to-head. So they got, one of those 2 teams will probably have 2 losses just like they would, and then whoever won that game would be the thing. But yeah, it is amazing when you consider that they lost Bowling Green, and but these teams are playing. There's no Gopher team in history has had a Big Ten schedule as easy as this one. The West sucks beyond
it's terrible,
beyond belief, and they got beat by Ohio State, and okay, that was the and their other Indiana is we all knew except the Indiana people and a few of the national observers, Indiana was just a blip on the radar of having one good team. They're back to being rotten again. And the poor Devils playing that East, they have no chance, to compete. They haven't won a game, right? I think they're winless in the Big Ten. And the Gophers get to go there too, right? That's one of their
it's one of their last 3 games.
Yeah. So it's things are looking good. Southern Cal will be very happy.
You started up again. Yeah, Indiana 0-5 in the Big Ten, 2-6 overall. So yeah, Gophers have Illinois here, and then after that it's Iowa, and then after that it's Indiana, and then after that it's Wisconsin. So it's it's setting up for a pretty good November.
Fleck, when you go to Iowa City, don't have your players wave to the kids in the hospital. That's an Iowa deal. Stop trying to steal everybody else's thunder. Just play your football games and stop trying to be Mr. Oh man, we're all worried about humanity. Let the Iowa players waving at the kids in the hospital. That's their shtick, not yours. So
okay.
I got that. That's not your shtick. Okay. But you know what's amazing? I'll say one thing. It doesn't make any difference what running back they use.
No.
That offensive line. Plus they sometimes they got 7 blockers up there. They're just doing it all power. We're not mad at Mike Sanford anymore, huh?
No. And there's a certain go ahead.
We're gonna fire him after the Bowling Green game. Right. Terrible. And now he's okay. We don't complain about him anymore.
There's a certain comfort in having a good offensive line. I just don't think people around here are used to that. With the Vikings, especially, like they haven't had a good offensive line in probably since the good Favre year. That was probably their best offensive line, and probably their actually truly good offensive line. Might have to go back 2 decades, but to have a good offensive line is just it just makes life comfortable.
We'd have to do the math, but with Riley Reef gone, the Gophers offensive line might have played more college games than the Vikings offensive line has played NFL games.
I added it up at the start of the year. If Wyatt Davis had been in the starting lineup and Christian Darrisaw too, the Vikings average age on their offensive line was only a year older than the Gophers.
Yes. Plus, I mean, they've all, Andrews and Olsen and, the big kid. And, he's probably played the fewest of them all, right? Because he missed last year. But, they've played a lot of games, and they're good, and they're big, and they're huge. And they knock the hell out of people. They've, it's what we need in American sports, fast games. Yes.
That seems like a transition to the World Series, Patrick. They played reasonably fast a couple nights ago in that 2-0 game.
Yeah, that was
324 or something like that.
324. There was a 311 and a 324. And then the last 2 nights have been 345 and a nice even 4 hours last night. I basically watched both the World Series and the Vikings game and didn't miss a Vikings play because after every pitch I'd click to see the next Viking play because I knew I had 35 seconds before morons throw another pitch. Mike, as long as we let them get away with making every pitch a art of science in which the pitcher can sit there and stare in at the mound and staring at the catcher for 30 seconds, this game is going to eat itself.
Yes.
It's committing suicide. Where is the 20-second clock that
pitch
they
clock.
were practicing about?
Yep.
Where it's their only hope.
Yes.
You have to have that they flash a sign and you throw the pitch, and they got to and I don't know what we can do about foul balls, but honest to God, I watched Duvall was batting, right? That when he hit the slam. And I said, okay, I'm going to click over. And then something interesting was happening in the Viking game. So I stayed. It had to be 5 minutes. And I came back and Duvall was still batting. He had 12 pitch bat. He had all these foul balls. He had to be up. Somebody said that was it the third inning or the fourth inning took longer than a quarter in the Vikings, which might be true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what they're going to do.
How about you get one? You get 1 2-strike foul ball. After that, it's like softball rules, and you're out.
I think we got to do something. Yeah, I was thinking. Okay. Yeah, my son, Chris is Mr. Big Ball, and we had lunch, and he says, "It's foul balls. You got to do something." I don't know what, like 8 pitches. That's it. You're out. If your ball isn't in play, of course, I said, yeah, but then the problem is the 8th pitch will be over in the other batter's box. So that, it's got to be, so many strikes. I don't know what they're going to do, but it's just unbelievable. And it's going to be worse because now more analytics are coming to hitting to catch up with the pitching.
Right.
They got to do. They have no answers. You know who was very relieved that the thing didn't end in Atlanta last night, though? Rob Manfred. He would have had to come and present the trophy.
Yes.
In Atlanta, where they don't like him because of the All-Star game.
All-Star game. Yeah, that's true. I don't think anybody really likes Rob Manfred. So anywhere he goes, it's not going to be any better in Houston where he banned him for cheating, the whole cheating thing. But
quite a World Series as far as that. Sure, but I got hope for the Astros. I kind of hope Dusty wins it. So I like Eddie a lot, but I'd rather have Houston win it. Also to shut up the 2017 stuff too, and but I don't know. They're still in trouble. They don't have a pitcher for Game 6. The Braves actually have 2 pitchers: Max Fried, who hasn't been good, and Ian Anderson. They got 2 starters. Houston is just slapping it together since they. You think about the Braves having lost Charlie Martin, and they can still come up with pitchers, and the Astros have no pitchers, and it isn't incredible though. You can win a World Series now without starting pitching.
Yeah, how it's evolved into that, and I wonder if it'll swing back at some point or in some different direction. If this is just the flavor of the moment, but it is. Every game is like 6 pitchers. It's automatic now. We're used to going to see that many different guys throwing the ball.
Yeah, and if I'm the running the Dodgers, I look at the way I got myself into this pitching chaos with actually even they still had 3 starters left, even without the
no
Sato.
Kershaw,
No Kershaw, no Sato Masochist, Trevor Bauer, and then yet they decided to screw up every game and have 9 pitchers, and they end up not getting to the World Series. So I'm glad they didn't.
Last thought, Patrick. Big win for the Loons. Minnesota United beat Sporting KC. Their playoff prospects look better. Wolves and Wild, a little bit of stumble. Wolves can't score. They lost 93-91. Their defensive rating is great. They can't score anymore.
Yeah, I went to the first half, and I was going to stick around, and Naz Reid wouldn't sit down, so he was standing between me and the basket all the time. So I couldn't see from the press box. So I said, hell, I'll go home and watch on TV. But the crowd was really into it, Mike. They had a nice crowd, and the first half, they had some breakaway dunks by Edwards, and they did some good things, but they can't score. They're not, I thought they were going to be, I'm wondering if phasing out this McDaniels has hurt him a little bit. He can shoot a little bit. He never gets to shoot. Edwards was the guy who came out a week ago and said, we got to share the ball more, which was him saying Cat and Russell have to share the ball more. But then he took some dumb shots the second half. He was firing up the three when he didn't have to fire up the three. And that was a bad loss because there was, no excuse for it. I mean, Denver doesn't have Jamal Murray. They were playing a back-to-back. Jokic scoreless the first quarter.
Yeah.
And then he ends up with 26. Boy, he and Cat don't like each other, do they? Oof.
No. Cat was a minus 23 in that game, by the way. Just not good.
He lets that guy get in his head, because he wants to be considered a better player than him. And they were just acting like the world's two tallest drama queens.
Yes.
Complaining about everything. Cat's got to realize that complaining about every call is going to get him fewer calls, not more calls.
Yes, and he kind of did that against the Bucks. It kind of seemed like he had for one game he turned a corner, but that's not turning a corner. I don't know. I think they'll be all right. It's surprising that they haven't been better on offense so far.
Yes, made shots. So Russell once again was a non-factor again the other night after having a good game in Milwaukee, which Milwaukee's missing 3 of their starters. So that's probably a good time to be playing them right now. So anyway, they're better. They're just, and as you say, they're guarding people, which is quite the improvement to say the least. But I like them better when they play Vanderbilt instead of Okogie too. I mean, Okogie's, God love him, he tries hard, but he, you could lock him in the gym for an hour and he couldn't score 20 points. So,
well, we'll see. They get Orlando next, so they got a chance to get well. That's we'll see Jalen Suggs, right?
Yeah, that's good tonight. You'll be there tonight, and they beat the Knicks. They're the only team to beat the Knicks so far. So who knows? It's a little weird right now, the NBA, which is good. Which is good. Although their bad teams are bad, man. There's 3 or 4 of them that are horrible on purpose.
Yes, on purpose. All right, sir.
All right. Just remember this: the bottom line. You can't go over the top at ridiculing the Vikings for last night. But whatever you say, nobody can tell you it's over the top. They deserve all the heat they're getting.
I agree with that, sir. We'll see what happens this week and next week. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, goodbye.